Hi, everybody. Good evening, good late afternoon for you West Coasters. Maybe is it you usually are very well represented geographically, so maybe are there any good mornings? No, even Hawaii's not good morning, right? Oh,
Oh,
hi.
no, it'd be or like good afternoon still.
Greetings, everybody. On that note, actually, it's always fun for us to see. Just do me a favor, put in the chat, tell us where you are in the country or the world, and then the graduating class of your student. I know we're largely talking to kind of 26s, 27s, but tell us where you're at and graduating class of your student or students, if you would. So yeah, there we are, and yeah, we're pretty well represented here geographically as a team. As well, tonight you're stuck with a couple of East Coast, Northeast boys here. I'm up just north of Boston and our office in Salem, Mass, and then we got Murph down the shore in New Jersey. For those of you that are not from around here, it's called DTS, down the shore, baby.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so we'll do some quick introductions as you guys get settled, talk some housekeeping stuff, and then we have a decent amount to cover here. This world of higher education always keeps us on our toes. This year, no different, especially with this big beautiful bill has some significant impacts on this world, right? Financial aid, scholarships, etc. We're going to talk about those a little bit, and then specifically focus on again what can we do, what do we have control of, what do we not have control of. So, my name is Matt Carpenter. I'm founder here at College Aid Pro. I've been doing this for 20 years on the nose now. 20 years exactly, which is pretty amazing to say. It's really all I've done professionally since I graduated from college back in 2004. This has kind of been it. So with that, hopefully that means I'm a pretty good resource here. I've been flown a couple missions, but our job is to take this really confusing, overwhelming, scary process and make it somewhat digestible. Just kind of hopefully bring your shoulders down a little bit, educate you, get rid of the fear of the unknown here, and answer your questions, right? So please, guys, I would argue one of the number one things you're going to get out of tonight, ask your questions and put them in Q&A. I know I said put this in the chat, and I'll have you put some things in the chat, but please put your questions in the Q&A. Ask us anything. What is keeping you up at night, right? What are you curious about? What's this particular college do or don't do? You can be anonymous, so please take advantage. You're in great hands here too with my colleague, my buddy Kevin Murphy. Murph has been doing this for an awful long time as well. I get a couple of years on him, as you can see by the whites here. But he has flown an unbelievable amount of missions himself, worked with thousands of families, just been on the front lines. Um, doing this forever, and he's one of the most effective professionals I've ever seen in my life. And I've been fortunate to work with a lot of really, really accomplished folks in this space. And I'd draft you in the first round, Murph. I would absolutely draft you in the first round. So maybe even number one
Oh,
overall. But if you want to say hi quick, Murph, introduce yourself, and then we'll get cooking.
yeah. Well, thank you for that introduction. I don't think I need to say anything else. I'm just Kevin Murphy, one of the pros here at College Aid Pro. So there we go.
Okay. Um, a man of you're not a loudmouth like me, Murph.
Well,
Likes to
you did. I think you covered it for me.
pump
I
you
think
up.
we're
I
good to
pump
go.
pretty good. All right. So let's get into it, guys. And again, please put your and the other thing I'll mention, everybody will get the recording um tomorrow. Okay. So everybody's gonna get the recording tomorrow. It might even be later tonight, I forget, but you will get the recording. Make sure you stick around for the end tonight though. For those of you that have been around the block with us, we always do something special for folks that attend live. Because I totally get you can't attend everything live. Sometimes you just register knowing you're not going to be there and you're going to watch a recording. But for us as presenters, just makes it better when there's more people in the room, and we got a great room tonight and it's interactive. We hear ourselves talk a lot, so that makes it a little bit more entertaining. Okay, without further ado, let's get cooking here.
Let's do it.
Okay, so College Aid Pro, right? And obviously that's what we're here to talk about tonight. A little bit about us, right? This is our mission. Pretty straightforward. We got ambitious goals. It's the end the student debt crisis, right? That's all. How do we do it? We do it at this stage, right? Like we're still educating your colleagues in the class 2025 that are figuring out how they're going to pay the bill, how they're going to borrow. But that's not how we beat this thing. We beat this thing by getting educated at this stage and making really informed decisions with all these kind of different decisions you got to make, throughout this college planning process. If you haven't done it already, Murph, can you put the MyCap link in the chat, please?
You
Look
got
at
it.
look at everybody here, and I see actually just about everybody already created their account, which is amazing. Our technology is the cheat code for how to navigate this process. I don't know how else to say it. So you have it at your disposal. We'll be in and out of there tonight to look at some real case studies. But if you haven't done it already, take the 2 minutes to do it this second. Okay, set up at least your free account, because as we're teaching you how this whole thing works and these changes that are happening, that's great. It's important to understand, but you need to know how it's going to work for you, right? What is your family's financial aid eligibility? Where's your kid going to get scholarships and for how much? Okay. Okay. When do the changes go into effect? So for you guys, it's kind of weird here because for this year, right? So for the class of 2026, the freshman year of your students is not going to be impacted by these rule changes. It's not going to be impacted until sophomore year. However, and we're going to double click on some examples tonight, it's really important that we keep these future changes in mind with how we present our situation to these colleges this year, specifically on the financial aid applications, the FAFSA and the CSS Profile, which Murph will talk about in a little bit of detail a few slides from now. So, okay, these changes don't go into place until your student's sophomore year, if you're the class 2026, or freshman year, if you're class of 2027. But we have to keep them in mind and maybe make some decisions in the meantime. Now, these next couple of slides, I've already given a stern talking to our colleague and buddy and dear friend, Peggy Keogh, who's usually here presenting with us. But there's too much copy on these slides. We just need a few words and some pictures, and we talked through that. So we had that conversation behind closed doors here. And I kid, obviously, for those of you that know us, you know that I love Peggy. But here's the takeaway, the headline for Pell Grant. So what's a Pell Grant? Pell Grant is the federal government program, okay, for for families that don't have a lot of resources, right? Not a very high income, not a lot of savings. In other words, the folks that are going to need the most help when it comes to paying for college. There was a lot of talk that this program was going to be negatively impacted. And again, if you follow us at all, I was beating a very loud drum trying to raise as much awareness as possible to try to help people understand this cannot happen. Okay. So the takeaway here is that our worst fears did not come to fruition, fortunately. The Pell Grants are remaining the same, right? So the max Pell is staying the same, where a family with the max amount of financial aid eligibility can still get up to about $7,400 a year through this program. There was a lot of talks of students that were going to school part-time wouldn't be eligible for this program. That didn't happen. So, in terms of Pell changes, yes, there was some, but largely it's much ado about nothing. Okay. This slide here, not much ado about nothing. Okay. This is a very impactful, meaningful change. Okay. Now, and specifically when it comes to loans, by far, the most popular loan for parents that are sending their kids to college, and this is the parent that wants to borrow in order to contribute whatever they want to contribute to their kids' education. About 90% of parents historically will use what's called the PLUS loan. And that is the federal government's program, again, specifically for parents that are sending their kids to school. Now, historically, you could borrow an unlimited amount through this program. Okay. And it's quite frankly too easy to qualify for. So if you want to send your kid to NYU and you need to borrow $100,000, and it is going to be $100,000 next year, and that's one of over a dozen schools, dozens that will be over $100,000. And you didn't have any savings, and you were unemployed, and you didn't have a great credit score, they're still going to give you $100,000 for all 4 years, times 3 kids, whatever. Pretty easy to see why people get in too far over their heads, right? That's changing. Okay. Now the plus loan is going to be capped at $20,000 a year. You can't borrow more than $20,000 a year as a parent through this program. And it's over the course of 4 years, it's capped at 65,000. So it's not like Okay, I can borrow 20,000 each year, 80 total. Great. That's that $80,000 of my contribution. No, it's capped at 65,000. So can you go out and borrow from other places? Of course. And the private sector, for example, are going to still have no caps on the amount that you borrow for them. But this is really, really important because we have to think more critically about how much debt we are going to take on now at this stage. And again, there's no excuse, quite frankly, to not understand exactly how much these schools are going to cost you and how much you're going to borrow really before you even send off that common app, this year, if you're a class 2026 family. So that's the headline here. That's a meaningful change. For some families, this is probably going to be bad news, but I would argue from a macro level, a meta level here, most professionals that are in this space, if you ask them what's the number one reason, or at least one of the reasons why college is so expensive and continues to get more expensive every year, most of us would say because of the plus loan, because these colleges know the federal government is going to give everybody a blank check for an unlimited amount, even if they can't afford it, right? So what motivation do they have not to continue to raise their prices again, knowing that there's going to be an unlimited amount of funds coming in there? So more to come there, but it's important because we have to be even more cognizant of how much we're borrowing at any given college. Again, this is another book that Peggy drafted for us. But I will just kind of pick out a couple of the highlights here. The first one, and this is a really, really big one, and this is also, I will say in the same breath, a very positive change. Okay, so historically, if you owned a small business, even if it was just you're a sole proprietor, whatever. If you had less than 100 employees, you didn't have to put anything about your business on the FAFSA, and therefore it wouldn't be, quote unquote, counted against you. A couple of years ago, the federal government got rid of this rule. So now, even if I'm a sole proprietor or I have a small business with 3 employees, I have to put the value of my business on the FAFSA. And that is going to and has very significantly impacted financial aid eligibility. Okay. The great news is that's going away. So starting next year, right? Not this year, next year, if we have less than 100 employees, the FAFSA is not going to count it. But guess what, guys? If you are a class of 2026, it is mission critical that you answer this question about your business the right way, or the right way for you this year, because I'll tell you something. I know these colleges, Murph knows these colleges, they're not going to unsee anything. So you have to put a value down on the business this year. And if you say your business is worth X amount of dollars, even though that rule change happens next year, colleges are not going to unsee it. Okay. So it is so important that when we value our business and when we value real estate and things like this, where there's a huge gray area, that we present it in the way that's going to be most beneficial for us as a family, not for colleges. Okay. And we'll expand upon that a little bit. The other thing that I'll talk about here, I'll skip down to the last one, 529s. If you have a 529, historically you could use up to $10,000 a year for pre-college expenses, specifically around private school, right? If you're sending your kids to private high school, you could use $10,000 a year. They're expanding the definition on what you can use the 529 for before college to include, number one, up to $20,000 a year. But number two, the definition got a lot broader. So you can use it for exam fees. You can use it for tutoring. Okay. Now there's some gray area in there. Does tutoring mean admissions counseling? Is it just for school? That is kind of still up in the air, but the long and the short is you can use that money tax free, up to $20,000 a year before college, and for more things just than your traditional private high school expenses. So Mike, or Murph, I'll give you the mic for a bit here.
I appreciate it. And I think that just goes to show, and we're getting a lot of questions about Parent Plus loans, how important it is now to address this upfront, and really do your homework. And this is really the starting point, right? What is financial aid? It's essentially a discount off of the cost, off of the full sticker price. And there's different types of money that you can get from the schools. There's need-based aid. Need-based aid is going to be based on your income, based on your assets, your finances. And then there's merit-based scholarships, which have nothing to do with your family's finances, but they're based on your student's academic profile. Some schools do. We had a question earlier about SAT scores. Some schools do tie certain merit scholarships to test scores, but there are plenty of schools where students who apply test optional can still get tons of merit scholarships. And then lastly, which I think you would agree, Matt, but I don't really consider financial aid, it's self-help. So this would be the federal direct student loan. This would be an institutional loan and work study. You would have to, or your student would have to pay that back with interest, and also they could have to work for it. So it's just good to understand the different buckets of money and where things come from. Now, to understand if you'd be eligible for need-based aid, this formula is critical. We're going to start off with the cost of attendance, that full sticker price, and then we're going to subtract your student aid index. Essentially, that number that's based off of your income, your assets, what the colleges and the government think that you can afford to pay each year. The difference between the two is your financial need. And now that amount of money is what the school has to hopefully help you with. So we'll just put some numbers here. So let's say the cost of attendance is 80,000 and your student aid index is 40,000. That means that you qualify for $40,000 of need-based aid. Now it's up to the college to give you that money. And it's important to find the colleges that will.
Yeah, there's a huge variation there, right? Like just because you're eligible, and we'll look at some real examples for $30,000 worth of need. Are you going to get it? Or are you going to get some of it? Or are you going to get none of it? And again, we'll show some actual examples and dive deep here, but it depends on the college, right? And that's where it's like, again, a lot of people get confused because they're like, oh, I'm not applying to this $100,000 school, but it might be the most affordable for your family, right? Based on based on this, Murph, based on your SAI.
It's super important. That's like step one. You have to know your SAI, and that's the first thing you'll see in my cap. All right. Now, what should you know? What is your SAI made of? So every non-retirement asset that you have, right? Cash, checking, savings, all of that, that will be counted. Your retirement accounts, IRAs, 401ks, life insurance, annuities, those assets are excluded from your SAI. Now, we get asked all the time, is it bad that my student has money in their name? And it's not that it's a bad thing. However, it counts at a much higher percentage. Student assets count around 20%. So that means they're going to take 20% of what's reported as your student asset, and they're going to add that to your SAI. Parental assets are factored at 5.64%. So it's nearly a quarter of the impact. So there is a big difference there. Now, grandparent 529s and sibling 529s are not included. And that's I'd say fairly recent, especially sibling 529s benefit and change. Now, UGMAs and UTMAs are your student's account. So those are considered student assets, and it's good to know that. And parent-owned 529s would get reported as a parent asset on the FAFSA. Now, jointly owned account, I think that's, and I think you'd agree, Matt, more of an opportunity there. Definitely, if your name's on an account, something worth considering including as your asset. Now, real estate, your primary residence is not listed on the FAFSA. It's not included as part of your SAI. And that's a really big thing to keep in mind. However, any investment properties, those will be, any second homes, those will be included. And it's really important, and that's a big mistake we see families make all the time, not to overvalue them, right? You have to keep all of these numbers as low as you possibly can, and that's part of the upfront strategy. Now, another thing too is businesses, like Matt said, that can have a really big impact on your SAI. So you want to get that right up front, because in future years, that's definitely something that could come into play. And all of the assets that I mentioned previously, those are all as of the day you submit the financial aid forms. So if you do it on October 15th, they're supposed to be as of October 15th. Now, in terms of income, the prior year is used, and I think that can sometimes be a little bit confusing. So if you think of the year that your student's going to graduate high school, we have a lot of families with 2026 grads, subtract 2. 2024 would be the base tax year that is used to determine your SAI. And one of the largest driving factors behind that number is your adjusted gross income. And that's line 11 of your 1040. Oh, and that's the next bullet. Another thing that's important to keep in mind too is there's a portion of student income that's completely excluded. That's called the student income allowance, income protection allowance. $9,410 is completely excluded for the 2025-26 school year. But every dollar above and beyond that is factored very heavily, right? Every dollar above and beyond the 9,400 is factored at 50 cents on the dollar. So it has a very significant impact to any need-based financial aid that you would receive. Is there anything you want to add to this slide, Matt?
Yeah, I want to double click on a couple things because we got a lot of kind of overlapping questions as we typically do here. So I'll try to hit on the highlights. So
Mm-hmm.
let me reiterate what Murph said about without getting into the intricacies of the formula. By and large, and this is a very fair generalization, colleges will put way more emphasis on any money in the student's name than they will the parent's name. So I always say, like, look, if your kid's got 10,000 bucks, let's say they're an industrious kid, they've saved some money, they save their bar mitzvah, first communion money, whatever. They get 10,000 bucks in a savings account. That's not a huge amount, right? When we look at these college costs, but guess what? It's enough to move the needle, okay, to the tune of about $2,500 a year, at least 2,500 to 3,500 a year in your financial aid eligibility, right? So we're talking about, $10,000 to $15,000 more that you're going to pay, to go to college by presenting it in the student's name as opposed to in the parent's name in that scenario. Okay. 529's got a ton of questions about 529s. Okay. The students are the beneficiaries. One of the most mission critical mistakes that so many families make, because quite frankly, it's very easy to make, is they report the 529 money as the student's asset. Number one, it's incorrect. Number two, it'll kill your SAI. It'll kill your financial aid eligibility. The other one here, UGMAs, UTMAs, if you're not familiar with any of these terms, you can almost like tune out. It means it doesn't apply to you. If you had a custodial account, okay, that is another term for UGMAs or UTMAs, you would be aware of that, so you can almost disregard. But these accounts technically are student accounts. Okay, this is the student's money. Now, there's some options and some new vehicles that make it easier to get those kind of in 529s and things like this. We can't give firm recommendations that are, apply to everybody. But as a matter of fact, Murph, if you have it, guys, if you're even thinking about it or you have some questions that are personal to your situation, book some time with us. That's one of the things we're going to do tonight. Give you the opportunity to book some one-on-one time with us where we can look specifically at your situation and say, okay, here's the deal and here's how you want to report this, that, or the other. So Murph just put that link in the chat. So book some time with us. Don't overthink that one because we're going to be able to, because again, a lot of these questions that we're getting, should I liquidate it? Should I transfer the UGMA to a UGMA 529? Should I put it in the grandparents' name? Should I put it in the younger sibling's name? Awesome questions. And guess what? We're going to have different answers based on all the other information we're going to need to get a kind of comprehensive look at your situation. Okay. So I think, and again, just so important how we value our real estate, specifically our primary residence. For most of us, that's our biggest asset, but it can make all the difference in the world between a school being affordable or not, right? And again, we'll look at some specific examples. So, okay, Murph, sorry to cut you off there, pal.
No, you didn't. I appreciate it. And like you said, I just dropped the link for to have a meeting with me and some folks on our team. But if any of these things are ringing a bell, like, hey, I need to take action here. Hey, I have a question here. It makes sense to just hop on a call. Okay, so we work with a lot of families, and there's plenty of families who don't qualify for a
Oh,
dollar.
sorry, Murph, my bad.
No, it's all good. Go ahead.
Guys, for those of you that have questions, and I know not everybody was here in the beginning, so it's helpful to have a reminder. Put their questions in the Q&A, not the chat, because there's so many questions. Murph and I just got to look in one place, so we'll be looking in the Q&A. So if you put a question in the chat, we're not ignoring you. Just copy and paste it, put it in the Q&A. We'll do our best. We won't get to every question tonight, but we're going to give it hell. All right, go ahead.
I think we're doing a good job. 24 so far.
There we go.
But anyways, so there's a lot of families who don't qualify for any need-based aid. All that means is you have to look at this a little bit differently, right? So you have to figure out first, what colleges are going to give my student a scholarship? Which colleges are going to reward them for working hard in high school and give them some money to reduce the costs for our family? And a lot of times you can say, all right, well, if one college is going to give us a lot of money, are there any colleges similar to that college that would give us more? And that's what we're referring to with competition, because later on in the process, you can use that greater merit award as leverage on an appeal. And that's one of, I'd say, the top strategies that can be used for merit appeals. Now, there are some colleges across the country that just to get a merit scholarship, you have to file the FAFSA. And if they require it, you have to file the CSS profile, even to get a merit scholarship. So keep that in mind. Usually the easiest solution for that and for many things is always to just file your CSS profile and file your FAFSA. Now, all of this information about merit scholarships is in MyCap. Another reason we would encourage you to create an account, put the link in the chat earlier. We can drop that in again though. And it's also important to understand that there are some colleges that do not give any merit scholarships, regardless of what you've heard from friends, families, or neighbors, Ivies, NESCAC schools. They don't give any merit. There's also a lot of public colleges that, out-of-state public colleges, that give very little or no merit. So it's important to try and understand, again, what colleges are going to give us money and which ones aren't. And I think that covers this slide, but is there anything else you want to add?
I think those are the highlights. Did you hit on the fact that some of the, if you're one of those that aren't eligible for financial aid, some of these colleges, NYU is always my favorite example. They were the
Yeah.
fifth most popular colleges last year in terms of applications. If you want to be considered for their scholarships, you have to do the FAFSA and the CSS profile to even be considered. So it's just another reason. I don't care who you are, do those forms. Otherwise, you're leaving money on the table.
Yeah. And schools like NYU and BU, they award money for all 4 years. So the money you get in the first year is actually the same for all 4 years. But let's say there's a job change. If you don't do the FAFSA and the CSS profile freshman year, you can't go back sophomore year and say, hey, now I need money. Or not job change, more so job loss. But
Excellent point. Excellent point. It's a great one. Yep. What did we say, Marv? Yeah, let me jump into
Yep.
the platform quick. So, okay. Okay, so look at this is, and again, grab this link for me again, Marv. So this is our, again, this is your cheat code, okay, for all things financial aid, scholarship related with college. If you haven't done so already, set up your account now. If you're feeling, and I would say to upgrade to the full premium version of this, it's $5. So do yourself a favor and upgrade if you haven't already, so you can put unlimited schools in here and get some of the great features that aren't available in the free product. But what you'll be seeing staring in the face is we spent a lot of time talking about SAIs. You don't need to guess what your SAI is. You don't need to guess if you're eligible for financial aid and how much at which colleges. We're going to tell you instantaneously when you answer a couple questions. To further confuse you, there's two types of SAIs, right? Colleges that just use the FAFSA, which is most colleges, fortunately. They use the federal SAI, right? And we'll tell you, well, what is that exactly? Okay. But a lot of these colleges, we mentioned BU and NYU and U Chicago and University of Southern California and Rice and Tulane and Miami, these guys all use what's called the institutional methodology. Okay. And one of the big differences is that these colleges that use the institutional methodology, number one, most of them, not all, most of them will consider your home equity fair game. Okay. In other words, they look at that asset. I'll pick on Boston College. If your home's worth 500 and you owe 200 on it, Boston College is going to say, great, here's a $300,000 checking account. Okay. But not all institutional colleges look at your home equity. Amherst College, they don't look at any of it. You got schools like, I don't know, what's one of them, Marv, where I won't put you on the spot, but a lot of these colleges, they won't look at all your home equity, but they'll look at some, and there's a formula tied to the amount of the income. So
Do you want some examples?
give me one, fire one off.
Vanderbilt, I think, is 1.2 times income. Georgetown's, I think, 1.8 times
Okay.
income. So it's a multiple of your income that they're looking at. And then there's some schools that don't use anything, like Harvard and MIT. They don't use any home equity. Princeton doesn't.
Yeah.
So different layers of complication, and important to understand home equity. And then you mentioned Boston College earlier.
Right.
Boston College, they don't even take the value that you report for your home. Oftentimes they use what they call the College Board value, which is just an inflated number that's always unfair. So just a lot of variables if a college is using home equity.
All right, Marv. Nobody likes to show off.
Sorry.
Okay. Enough of that. But look at I think the takeaway is here. And this is something I say every day. These colleges are private businesses and they each run their businesses differently. You don't have to know what it is. All that's baked into the algorithm. So you just put in a school and we're going to account for the fact that they look at some of your home equity, all of your home equity, no home equity. Another huge difference in colleges that use the institutional methodology, if you are a split household family, so divorced or separated, right? They're going to look at the vast majority of them, both households, right? And so oftentimes that can make the institutional SAI higher, whereas federal SAI, they're only looking at one household. Murph's going to talk about which household and best practice there in a couple of minutes here. But and again, but there's exceptions, right? You use Vanderbilt as an example of capping the amount of home equity they look at. They're one of these institutional schools. They don't look at the non-custodial household. They'll
Yep.
still look at one household. University of Chicago, Santa Clara, institutional schools that only look at one household. So a lot there, but again, you're also going to have in your home dashboard all of our upcoming events, our most recent kind of content there. If you're a premium member, and again, guys, premium's $5. Let's not overthink it. You get access to all the private scholarships in the country. Okay, right here, and you can kind of sort by all of the sort by all the filters here. You get access to our members only workshops every other Thursday. You get access to our members only office hours. So it'll just be a panel of our experts every other Monday night, 7 Eastern time, just to answer your questions. Right. So again, $5, guys. Uh okay, do me a favor. I'm gonna ask you to go back in the chat. Put it in a college that you're most curious to learn about. Maybe it's your kid's top choice. Maybe it's your alma mater. Maybe you're thinking, hey, we might go ED to this school. Okay, so I just looked. Hofstra was the first one that I saw. Okay, Hofstra will be in it. Okay, so first thing that we're gonna do here is you're gonna see, okay, the sticker price at Hofstra is 82,000. You're gonna pay, this family's gonna pay 46,000. Now I can decide I want to add this school to my list. Okay. Or I can do a deep dive on it. It will tell me more. Tell me why. Okay. And you're going to see some important things. And this is for, again, for every college in the country. Here's some high level admission statistics. Here's the acceptance rate. Here's the rankings, right? Here's the average GPA, test scores, etc. So this can be really helpful to say, should we submit test scores or not, right? Um, but this is where we do our work, is on the financial piece of the puzzle. So we're going to tell you, okay, here's on average how much this school meets. Here's their business model, right? Are they a federal or institutional methodology school? Here's on average what they give for merit. That's nice, but who cares? You want to know what you're going to get. What is this college going to cost you, okay, and your student over the course of 4 years? These are not averages. These are tailor-made projections, right? So here's the sticker price at Hofstra, and we got to bake in inflation, guys, because guess what? It's going to happen. Here's what we're going to get for a discount. Here's what I'm going to pay out of pocket, okay? Now, for every college in the country, we have every scholarship that they offer, the qualifications for each. What we're really good at projecting is how much is your kid going to get for a scholarship, if any? So regardless of my income, I'm going to get $36,000 off at Hofstra. That's nice to know, right? Okay, that's great. I'm getting, $36,000 off, but is that within my family's budget? So this is obviously something that you can control. You can use this as a sandbox to determine your budget, but we want to help you figure out, obviously the dream world. We're not borrowing anything. If we borrow less than 27,000, that's the federal direct student loan we're entitled to get, guaranteed to get. That's a great outcome, but we're still in good shape if we borrow less than we expect the student to make their first year after graduating from college. So all in sticker price at Hofstra, 36,000. We're going to pay 200,000 after financial aid and scholarships. Here's our budget at 145. Somebody's going to borrow this amount. That's under what we're expected to make based on the major, based on the school when we graduate. So that's still a great outcome, right? So let's just look at one more school here. I saw Yale. Okay. So Yale, their sticker price 95K. We're going to pay we're going to pay 47K. Again, well, why? Okay. And obviously, pretty stinking hard to get in there, but they're unbelievable in terms of meeting need-based financial aid. They meet 100% of aid, but scholarships, they really, for all intents and purposes, they don't exist there, right? Nobody is at Yale on a scholarship. So we just got to be aware of that if we have a really high SAI. Now, I want to show you one more thing before I kick it back to Murph to talk through the FAFSA, the CSS profile, and through something called appeals. But this is where, and again, guys, pay the $5 just so you can use this tool to help you build your list of colleges. Because as you guys are going through the academic criteria, right? We have dozens of different filters you can put in here. I'll just show you a couple. But this is okay. Let's say you know your kid wants to go to a smaller college and they want to be, relatively close to home. We have it tied to your zip code. And maybe they're thinking about majoring in biochemistry. Okay. I can apply these filters and again, a whole bunch more. And then I can just go say, well, I want you to, sort based on who's going to give me the most in merit based scholarships. Right. And we will instantly do that. And, maybe Wheaton wasn't on the list, but they're checking all my admissions boxes and I'm going to go there for less than half price and I have a really high SAI. That's awesome. I'm going to get a $50,000 scholarship at Dickinson. That's awesome. If I am eligible for need-based financial aid, I can sort just based on that, right? So, okay, yeah, Amherst is great with need-based financial aid, but I don't. It's so hard to get in there. Okay, here's another school, Connecticut College. That's a little bit more palpable from an admissions standpoint, and they're amazing with need-based financial aid. So use the power of this tool. So as you're kind of thinking about the admissions criteria, you can build this list of schools that are relatively affordable. And this is just kind of another way where any school that you add to the list, you can just kind of get this quick heat map of and with the goal being we don't want too many schools top left. We don't want a bunch of highly selective that are also in caution in terms of our family's affordability profile. So this is a fine list. And it doesn't mean there's going to be none up there. There's always going to be some up there, and that's okay. But we just want to have some balance there. So Mark, and I'm going to jump back in the tool in a couple minutes here. But again, hopefully you guys are kind of looking at some colleges yourselves to see how affordable or not they're going to be as you're listening along here. Okay, buddy.
Awesome. And thank you for the comment we just got. I'm excited for you to try it.
Yeah, what was the comment? Am I gonna like it or hate it?
Gonna totally nerd out on this.
No, no,
Loves the tool.
if you're into that, you're gonna be
You're
you're
gonna
into
love it.
it.
But but anyway, so the FAFSA. FAFSA, it's already in phase one. It's in beta, so it will be officially live October 1st of your student's senior year, right? So if your student's about to start their senior year, you've got a couple of months before the FAFSA opens, so a great time to plan and get all of this in order. I already mentioned this, but the prior year is the base tax year, and that's going to be your student's high school graduation year -2. Now, I think that this is probably the most important bullet about the FAFSA. Who files it in a divorced or separated household? There's a huge opportunity here to basically to pick a parent for your benefit and to plan around this, because there's only one parent who goes on the form, right? So if you're divorced and there's two parents in the household and another parent makes way more money versus the custodial parent, doesn't mean you're automatically going to use the parent with the higher income, right? That would actually cost you financial aid. So you want to make sure you think through this. Typically speaking, the custodial parent is the one who's providing the most support to the student. And that's a really good benchmark, I think. And that's how it used to be. Now, in terms of logging in, you just go create your account, studentaid.gov, go do it now, right? I mean, it's something that's very simple, easy to do. Username and password, one parent account, one student account. I think that's it on the FAFSA, Matt. Is there anything else you want to add?
So long as you just kind of double down on how divorce separated families should be completing the
Sure.
FAFSA and tie it in here, that'd be my only comment.
Yeah, and I'll start off with that. So sorry for any confusion there, but so on the FAFSA, only one parent is required to fill it out in a divorced or separated household. And there's usually a very big planning opportunity to figure out which parent would actually help us get the most financial aid. But in terms of the parent who has to go on the FAFSA, it is the parent who provides the most financial support for the student. And oftentimes that's the custodial parent. It's totally different with the CSS profile, because there's a lot of CSS profile schools that ask for both parents' information through what's called a non-custodial profile. So that means that the custodial parent has to fill out their own profile, and then the non-custodial parent also has to fill out their own CSS profile, and the college is going to look at both households. There are some circumstances where you can request a waiver to get the non-custodial parents' information excluded. Typically speaking, that would be situations like no contact at all with the student, no financial support, and abuse, right? So pretty serious reasons not to get their information included. And now, so do you think I covered it enough there? Or?
I think that it makes sense to me, but obviously, and I don't know that I'd have anything to add. The only thing that, and sorry, I was answering a ton of questions, so I'm
Yeah.
half listening best I can. This is an opportunity, guys. If you are a divorced or separated family, right, and there is some contact, it doesn't, even if it's not completely amicable, this is an opportunity here. You have some gray area, some leniency, and where there can be some strategy implemented. And this rule change in particular, I think makes it easier than it was before to present the situation in a way that would be most beneficial for us, right? And still completely by the book. Doesn't matter who the student lives with. It doesn't matter who claims the student as an exemption on tax returns. So we can be smart here and create a scenario that again is going to maximize our financial aid eligibility, maximize our discounts here. So ultimately, this is a win if we're a family if we do this right, right? If we're a family that's in that bucket somewhere.
Yeah. And you know what? We got a question earlier about, hey, I'm remarried. Does that parent's information count?
Mm.
Unfortunately, it does, but that's another reason to plan around who do we file with, right? So if we file with ourselves and we're remarried and now our new spouse's information is going to count towards our student's financial aid, that's a big planning opportunity to try and work around that. So definitely that's a good reason to meet with us, right? A very, very good reason to meet with us if that situation rings true for your family.
And this is a good one too. This is where it gets super clunky, but again, we have to be really smart if and this happens all the time, right? If you are divorced recently, kind of during, that hey, we're a class 2026 family, we married jointly in 2024, the taxes we're looking at, or married filing jointly, there's been a separation and or divorce in the meantime. How do we present that? That's one that would take a whole webinar to kind of walk you through. But that's one where it's just like, guys, book a couple minutes with us. We'll talk through it to learn the specifics. But again, that's an opportunity there and can be, quite frankly, a silver lining to your new dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, so I skipped over this part. So the CSS profile, it's an additional financial aid form above and beyond the FAFSA that somewhere around 250 colleges use, right? It's a private form from College Board. So that's the same place that you're going to fill it out. One of the biggest things about this, or there's a few, right? Divorce families, that's a big deal for the CSS profile. If you have a lot of home equity or any, right, that's another factor. And then also business owners. But CSS profile schools, as Matt was showing before, and we were talking about a little bit in the software, they're going to count your home equity equivalent to the same as like a checking account, right? They're going to take the amount of equity that you have in your house, and if they're using it all like Boston College, they're going to take 5%. Same as if you had 100 grand in your checking account or 100 grand in the equity of your house. So that's a big opportunity to figure out, well, hey, how do I value my home the best way possible? And then also something we can sometimes address on appeal. Now, in terms of business owners, there's several additional questions for business owners. And above and beyond, valuations, but also tax information. So there's added layers of complexity. Also some opportunities too, upfront on the forms and later on an appeal to address, the business's assets and so forth. I mentioned the waiver already, but just to reiterate, if that applies to anyone, there is a non-custodial profile waiver. And it's just a tough form. I think, Matt, you joked that, this is a form where you need a bottle of wine to sit down and get through it. But it is a
Well, I
tough
say
form.
you can get through the FAFSA with a glass or two of wine.
Yeah.
The CSS profile is a bottle of wine. Maybe you're even getting into the hard stuff, depending on what your poison is. But yeah, that's I stand by that advice, Murph.
Yeah. But all right. So now appeals. Appeals are super, super, super important part of the process that no one should skip over. The appeals process is where you're essentially going back to the college and asking for more money, right? It's not exactly a negotiation, but in some respects, it's very similar to it. And you're going to have to make a really strong case to get that money from the college, right? You might have to share some details about some personal circumstances or just about your background and your story. In some instances, let's say you lost your job and you know how much your income's been reduced by. Well, you might know exactly how much more financial aid you would qualify for with reduced income. You can ask for it. Or if, hey, $5,000 is going to put us over the hump and make us able to commit, that's another reason to include a specific amount. Leverage and competition, right? Having better offers from other schools is a really, really strong reason on appeal. So that's another top reason that I would include here. In terms of expenses, lots of families have, whether it be medical expenses, elder care, you name it, none of that's reflected on your forms. So that's something you have to bring up and address directly with the college in the appeals process. And we saw this year, we've seen it in previous years, but sometimes you have to go back, right? You have to be persistent. You have to continue asking for more money. And until you really keep asking and know for sure, they say, nope, that's it. That's the most you're going to get. There's always the possibility that there's more money on the table. Financial aid offices always want to, and admissions offices, if you're doing a merit appeal, always want to hear from the student too, right? That's their education, that's their college. So it's good to have them involved. And ideally, you get your appeals done before the deposit's placed, but that's not always the end of the world, right? I just did, I think it was 3 appeals a couple of weeks ago. They were all still approved way after the enrollment deposit was placed. So there's still that opportunity to appeal after it's placed, but ideally, you want to get it done before, if possible.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's best practice, right? Because the appeals committee will talk about that. And our team is really lucky. Murph knows this, some of the experts on our team are the, director of financial aid at Harvard, director of financial aid at MIT, the former director at USC. So we get to are privy to those conversations on the other side of the desk,
Mhm.
which is why we're really good. I mean, but here's the takeaway, guys, at a meta level, you're not going to accept the first offer. That has to be your mentality. You're going to apply for financial aid, you're going to apply for scholarships, and the University of Miami is going to say, you're in, here's your offer. And you're going to say, nope, we need X amount more. And then there's a method to the madness. We're oversimplifying here, but we just more want to plant the seed that this is a thing. Right. And this is where we rely on the technology a lot too. Are you a college like Boston College? As part of their business model, will under award families $10,000 less than they should get. Our tool will tell you that, right? And I'll show you that in a second. But Mark, just rattle off some of the colleges and additional funds you got this year. I know BU was like 52,000 more. Tufts was some other crazy number. Just throw out a couple of them so people understand how meaningful this could be.
Yeah, in total, our team got almost 5 million extra on appeal. And we had a lot of appeals this year where we were seeing, 74,000 from Colby. Tufts was 49,000. We had multiple BC and BU
What was that?
appeals, but
79,000 from Colby? I don't even
74 from Colby.
never
Yeah.
heard that one.
Yeah. We had another family, I think it was 50 or 60,000 from Syracuse. Um, just some really, really big numbers. And also, like, those appeals made it possible for those students to go to those schools. And until they appealed, that was never even in the running.
Right.
So never take that first offer. Always try for more. You just have to know how to try for more and the reasons, which they're gonna show the software now too.
Yeah, right. So this is so look at we lots of questions as there always are on the FAFSA and the CSS profile, guys. So the idea is for every pain point in the process, we want to have a meaningful solution. Okay. So when you tell us where you're applying to college, right now you're in that list building phase, but as you're making decisions and you say you're applying to schools, we're going to tell you, okay, these guys require the CSS profile in addition to the FAFSA. They require the non-custodial application, or they don't. They require something called the iDoc. We won't bother you with that tonight, or not. So we're going to give you, here's what they require. Here's all the due dates, right? And then more importantly, line by line instructions to the FAFSA, line by line instructions to the CSS profile. And that's our girl, Peggy. She has unbelievable bedside manner. In addition to help you with the X's and O's, these line by line videos are, you got to pay the $5 to get access to those. But again, I think money well spent here. And then once you get accepted to these colleges, you're going to upload your award, right? You're going to say, hey, I was accepted to, Northwestern, right? Did I spell it right? Oh, sorry. Okay, I was accepted to whatever it was, Boston College. I'm going to take a picture of my award. You're going to upload it. First, we're going to translate it, and then we're going to tell you if you got a good deal, right? Like, what is the likelihood that I could go back to, back to a certain school and get more money? So I just put Dickinson down here, and we're saying the chances are low because you got a fair deal at Dickinson based on, what they offer. Doesn't mean don't appeal, right? And we're going to double click on that, but and we're still going to appeal. I promise you, we're never going to accept the first offer, but we're calibrating expectations here. Whereas Boston College, we have a strong appeal chance, and then here's some of the reasons why. And again, the method to the madness. And then finally, when it comes time to pay the bill, we have kind of your sandbox here where you can say, "Hey, I listened to Matt and Murph's presentation. We're definitely taking the $5,500, federal direct student loan. So now we only have to borrow 11,000." And whatever we have to borrow at the end, that's when we're going to have some best practices to say, okay, I understand what's going on with the plus loan. So here's where else I should be shopping. So again, this should be, most of your major pain points should be in here. So here's what I want you to do right now. If you haven't already, don't overthink this one, guys. Just be smart about this. You'll thank you later. Book some time with us. Okay, it's only going to be free, right? If you go to book some time with us on the website, it's $299 if you want to book an hour with one of us. Book some time with us. If you book tonight, right? It's free. We will be able to answer some of these questions you had with some more context, right? We'll be able to stare at your platform and kind of gut check the numbers we're showing you. Are you eligible for financial aid? Are you eligible for scholarships? How much, right? At which colleges? And then we're going to tell you, can we help you further? Now, look, if you're a DIYer, you're a DIYer, we'll get out of your way. But at least make the $5 investment, right? Upgrade to the premium version of the platform. And again, that way you still have access to our experts every other Monday and every other Thursday, right? And those are alternating and all the bells and whistles of the platform. In the free version, you can only put 3 schools in there. You don't have that advanced search. You don't have the line by line stuff. So if you're a DIYer, do that. If you're not sure, or if you're like me and you're just not a DIYer, when we meet with you, we'll talk about what we call our wake me up when it's over packages. And if any of these make sense for you guys, right? If you book time tonight, you will lock in a $500 discount so long as you purchase by a week from now, by or a little over a week from now, by August 15th. And so to quickly talk about what that looks like, right? Our financial aid packages. If you just want help with financial aid, here's some of the quick things we do. We do all your financial aid applications. We do the FAFSA. We do the CSS profile. We do the non-custodial. We do the institutional applications. We worry about who needs what, where, when, how. Think about having a great accountant, a great CPA. That's us. Here's how you value your home. Here's how you value your business. Here's which colleges are going to give you the most money. Here's which colleges compete with one another. So we can make sure when it comes time to appeal, right? We are Murph, you know this. How we have a successful appeal next spring is what we do now, right?
To
It's
tee
by
it up.
having competing. What's that?
You have to tee it up. It's part of the upfront strategy. You can literally position yourself to do better on appeals if you, and what Matt and I are saying doesn't mean, address it in the comments section of the CSS profile. We can help come up with a strategy to kind of tee up a better appeal in the spring.
So we'll be on the front lines there. And again, we got a great network that we leverage. And, and then when it comes to, again, how do we pay this bill? How do we borrow the right way? If we need more than the plus loan, right? Should it be Sally Mae versus whatever it happens to be? And again, on average, and this we have to update this because we did a heck of a lot better with our class 2025, but that's still open. On average, and again, this is before we say families about $70,000. Okay, and that's going up. And this is kind of giving you a range of what part of the process does that happen. So talk to us about that. See if it's a good fit. If you want admissions help, and guess what, guys, the admissions goes hand in hand with financial aid, right? They're all related. Getting into a school that is more generous with financial aid has to do with your admission strategy, right? Getting more merit-based scholarship dollars has to do with your admission strategy. We partner with the Princeton Review, right? Pretty stinking good household name. Again, you'll see us all over their website. If you go to see that, they are the best in class, which is why we selected them to partner with on the admissions front. And then, of course, there's folks that are like, look, I want help with both. I want help. I want you to help me Kevin Murphy with the whole financial piece of the puzzle, and I want you to help my kid, Joe K or Emily or some of these great folks at Princeton Review with the admissions piece. So again, this is not for everybody, but you're going to get a return on the investment. You're going to maximize your odds that your kid is applying to and getting into the best places possible for them, regardless of where they are and kind of their academic profile, right? But at a minimum, just book some time with us, guys. Take advantage of that. Well, it's free by tonight. You can meet with us over the next week, and then if you do decide to use one of the admissions packages for class 2026, guys, we're almost closed in terms of our season. We kind of close each season. Right around now, just because there's only so many folks that we can service with these high touch services here. So you have some urgency there. You have more time if you're class 2027, 2028, but still makes sense to sign up so you can get that discount. And again, at a minimum, guys, sign up for if you're a DIYer, right? You know who you are. We're not going to change you. We're not going to try to change you. Just get into the club, join the club here for $5. Cancel at
But
any.
still meet with us.
Yeah,
Even
so
if you're a DIYer, meet with us. We're really good at, within that short period of time, giving you some good insights, but also telling you how to approach this, right? Telling you based on all the details and numbers we looked at during the call, what's the best path forward for your family. So even if you're a DIYer, take some time and meet with us.
good call.
Yeah.
Yeah, take advantage of that. Okay. Yeah. So if your student's going to be a junior, going into their junior year, you want to meet with us right now, right? Obviously, seniors, we're officially game time. Like you guys are polishing your essays, and I know a lot of you already submitted your common application. So you guys are obviously the bullets are fully flying here. Okay. So look, I appreciate everybody. Great questions, right, Murph? Any kind of closing thoughts here, or feel like we did all right?
I think we did a good job. Yeah, I think we did a good job. But
Did our best at least. And again, it's impossible to get to all the questions, guys. If we didn't get to yours, we weren't ignoring you. We did as best we could. And for some of you, I know we said, hey, look it, we'd have to meet with you to answer that. That's not a lazy answer. It's just because it would be reckless of us to give some answers without having some more context. So all right, Murph, man, I appreciate you, brother. Thanks everybody for tuning in. You'll get the recording tomorrow. Make sure that you sign up for a consult tonight at a minimum, and we look forward to catching up with you in a more one-on-one basis.
all right, sounds
Great.
like a game
Have a
plan.
great weekend. Good
Bye.
night, guys.